computer. Greetings and salutations. My name is Kierra, visionary and founder of King's Kid. We are back for another crownpreneur moment. I'm super, super excited about today's guest. And I say that every time because I really mean it. Every time I say it. This person, Kierra Thomas, she's my best friend. She's my accountability partner. And she was like the very first person that I ever told about King's Kid in her house. So she's been there literally since the beginning. Her passion is public relations. So if y'all see some of my stuff that's coming back to y'all corrected, it's because she done probably corrected me and told me it was wrong. And I told y'all she's my accountability partner. And she's been fortunate enough to do what she loved for the past 3 years. And she believes that she's just getting started. She's super excited about the growth and opportunities that is ahead along her journey. Sis, I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
How are you?
It's really good. Life is funny now with the pandemic going on, but definitely some good things happening. So it's like, ooh, you want to soak a little bit, but you don't have time. Just gotta keep it moving.
Yeah. So today we're talking about our favorite topic, money, 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 money. So Kierra has been my accountability partner in regards to our finances. She gifted us, what's his name? Financial Peace. She gifted us by Dave Ramsey. And honestly, I think that was the best gift Ed and I could have gotten in our relationship, because even in our finances, we have taken it to a whole nother level, and she's been keeping me right and in order in regards to making sure I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. So the first question we have, after I ask you this, we're going to get into the money questions. But the first question that I have for you is, what does living a crown life mean to you?
Wow. There's a lot to unpack to that question. But I think at the core, I would say living a crown life means finding your identity in Christ. And from that, so many other, I think that's the root, and so many other things flow from that. Once we understand who we are, we can either start to live in our purpose or walk towards that, because that's obviously a whole nother journey and another conversation for another day. But once we understand that we have a purpose in the grand scheme of things, a part of the kingdom, and we can't just kind of do whatever it is that we want to do, we can. But God won't necessarily bless that, because he has plans for us and he wants us to work with him as a team. I received a message from my daddy yesterday. His friend sends, those motivational messages, and he forwarded it along. And one really caught my attention was, with yourself, you have limits, but with God, you're limitless.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, I was like, okay, so we sometimes set limits on ourselves, our situation, our finances, our career, but God really says, you're funny. I really have something so much grander than you could ever imagine. So overall, I really think that those two things are at the core of living a crown life. And it's not going to be pretty and easy just because you are crowned. And please let me know if my background keeps fidgeting a little. I see some things going on back there. But once you identify those things, then your perspective starts to shift. And even when you hit those rocky seasons, or even when you lose things, especially now is a time when people's careers are changing, the market, the economy, even when those hard times come, you can get a little frustrated, but you just handle the situation overall a lot differently. And your crown, no matter what the season is. But it really starts in your mind. It's a state of mind for me.
Your crown, no matter what the season is. I like that. I love that. So we're talking about money, 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 money today. So I want to know, what prompted your journey into budgeting and paying off debt? Like when did you realize, okay, I need to start setting a consistent budget, and then the other is I need to start paying off this debt?
Yeah. I don't think there was one defining moment. I believe I kind of built up to it. when I graduated from undergrad in 2014, I minored in business. My major was mass communications and my minor was business. So I always had an interest in being an entrepreneur. Wasn't really sure what type of business I wanted to start because I didn't have a passion back then. We're just trying to figure it out. So at that time, I said, well, if I don't know what type of business I want to start from scratch, let me check into franchising. And I even visited with the small business incubator on Southern's campus, because that's where I went to grad school, and got some information on, well, what does the cost look like? And during that question and answer period with them, they told me that you have to have a net worth. And I'm like, well, what's a net worth? I'm a college student, bank account on flat. I don't know what a net worth is. And again, that's just my personal situation. So I started to consider, all right, well, your net worth includes your assets minus your liabilities, which includes debt. So there's a major formula to it. And again, I want to give, well, not again, but for the first time, I'd like to give the disclaimer that this is based on my personal experience. I have a master's in business, but I am not a finance person nor an accountant. I'm just sharing my journey and hoping that some of these tools can help anyone. So, disclaimer.
Thank you.
I just don't want people to say, well, she said. And
and I think that's the important part of it is I wanted people to share their story so they can understand that each person's story is completely different and each journey is different. And I think that's the beauty of having so many different people talk about so many different things, is the fact that they can come and share their journey specifically. Like, I didn't even realize that that's how you started your journey. Like, I didn't realize that. So I think that it's important for us to share our stories. But yes, the disclaimer, if you need a financial advisor, I'll help you find one, but it's not her. We're sharing our stories and our journeys. All right. So
yes,
you started with, answering those questions, and you were in that incubator, and you realized you had to access the assets and then the liabilities. What was after that?
I didn't have no assets. I had liabilities called student loans that we're all struggling with. So I just kind of gave up. I'm not even going to lie. This was maybe over a year's period. And after a year and a half to 2 years after that conversation with the small business incubator, I met a real estate agent at an event. And I told her, by that time, I do want to add the background information. I was a homeowner. My parents worked with me to get a home. So when I met with her, I told her that I liked home ownership and I would be interested by this time, because I'm still trying to figure it out, in investing in real estate. I had given up on my franchise because I didn't have a net worth. In some places, minimum $500,000. Like, you had to have cash on hand, a net worth, and I have none of that. So I'm like, okay, let me move on to the next thing. I know about owning a home. I know about the maintenance. I know about the cost. I think I'm better suited for that. So she took me seriously, and I went to their office and I sat down and met with her and one of her colleagues. And during that time, she said, well, I think it's really great that as a 20-something-year-old, I think I was maybe 24, 25 at the time, you own a home. But when it comes to real estate investment, you need to have cash on hand. You need to have your finances in order. If you purchase a duplex or another home or investing a commercial space, until that space is filled, or if anyone ever moves out of it, that's your financial responsibility.
You're responsible for that, right?
So when she said that, I was like, oh gosh, here we go, back to the drawing board. But she said, okay, I understand you're interested. I recommend you start off by taking Financial Peace University.
Okay.
And she was, and I want to say maybe a week later, I signed up for it. And that's when I took the course.
Okay. So now we're at the stage of the course. Since you've taken the Financial Peace course, what have been the strategies that have worked best in your life to help you pay off debt and manage your finances? What are some of those strategies that you've implemented?
Well, I'm going to grab this here. This is my go-to. I don't know if you guys can see it, but it is my annual budgeting binder. And I have a section for each month with the name of the month, a calendar that records and keeps track of monthly auto drafts, like your cell phone bill or your gym membership or internet. Whatever you have on auto draft is nice to keep it on the calendar so you know when it's coming out of your bank account. And then I keep a budget. I do a zero-based budget. There are lots of different kinds that you can do, but I think that one works best for me, where I start off and I figure out how much is coming in from work and other streams of income for the month. And then I break it down and give each of my categories, whether that's bills like mortgage or the light bill, even things like cosmetics, or I have a dog. So every other month we go and get his nails clipped. Just giving all my money an assignment, and it feels a lot less stressful. Because I won't lie, prior to this, I would just wing it. When I got up to the register,
Just hope and just hope.
Yeah, let me see enough money.
And then you looking surprised when it don't go through.
Yeah. Yeah. So it doesn't seem like a lot, but it just alleviates a lot of stress, and it allows you to throw more money at your debt than you thought you could, because you've given yourself an amount to spend on food. So that's not to worry about. You've given yourself an amount to spend on gas, an amount to tithe. So whatever's left, whatever direction you want to go in, because some people pay themselves first and save, it's all a matter of personal preference, but you know what you can do, and if you can stretch yourself a little bit.
Right. And I think the one big lesson that you've taught me is that it's fluid. Just because you write it down don't mean it's gonna stay like that. So you have to be flexible with that. And that was the hardest. I had a lot of hard lessons. So that was one of the hardest lessons I had to learn with money, because I'm like, if I'm writing it down on the paper, the money needs to stay aligned with the paper. And you like, no, it's fluid. You need to let it flow and you need to adjust the budget. And I'm like, I don't like that. But I also think the important lesson is really understanding what's coming in and what's going out and making yourself flexible to that. And you have that peace of mind. You have that peace of mind on, okay, this amount of money is set aside for this specifically. And you know that. So you're able to, like you said, give your tithes better. We pay tithes first, then ourselves, and then everybody else get paid. That's how we do it. And like you said, it is a part of personal preference. But as I shared with Ed, the goal next is to start paying off these student loans. Now, I do know with Financial Peace, he has the snowball method, right? So with the snowball method, did you find yourself stressed out with that method, or did you find yourself paying off those small debts at a quicker rate than before?
It depends on the circumstances.
Okay.
Things like credit cards, of course, the balance wasn't as high. So I felt really good because over I would designate a certain amount and knock it out. Student loans, it's a work in progress.
Okay. And that's a whole work in progress. That's another conversation. Conversation.
So for those easy wins, I can say yes.
Right. And I think describe what the snowball method is, because we're having our conversation, but just in case the audience don't know what a snowball method is, describe what that method is in order to like pay off debt.
You pay off, and again, feel free to chime in on your perspective. But in my example, I had credit cards and student loans. And what I would do is pay off my credit cards or any doctor bills first. And once those things were paid off, I would put the rest of that money towards student loans or the next largest debt. You start off small and then you build up. And at that point, I was making sure that a larger portion was going to whatever took precedence, say it was the doctor bill. And then meanwhile, I was doing the minimum payment on my student loans. And once that doctor bill was paid off, I could put the money that was going towards the doctor bill towards student loans. So you just kind of build from smallest to biggest. But we want to make it clear that you need to maintain those other things, even if it's just the minimum payment.
Right. So we did the same thing. We had credit cards, car notes, student loans, and of course we had a house. So we did the and we owed a few people some things. So we did the credit cards first, and then the people that we owed money to, we paid them off, and then it was the truck. That was like the biggest thing. But once again, it goes back to the point of having to maintain that. So when everything else was paid off, we built that money towards the truck, and we were able to pay the truck off probably like 6 to 8 months earlier than expected. So that's how we did ours. But we started off the same with the credit cards, and now we don't use the credit cards unless we're on vacation, only because if that card is compromised, they don't have access to our account with our big money in it. The other thing we did implement was the envelope method, but we only implemented the envelope method when we're saving. I know Dave Ramsey, with him in the envelope method, you put all your bills on an envelope. So I have an envelope for my water, an envelope for lights, an envelope for this, an envelope for that. That didn't work out too well for us. What did work out well was having our savings in an envelope. And we've been able to save at a faster rate and a more consistent rate. Having our savings in a bank account right now, it's just easy to transfer it over and be like, I'm paying myself back. So the envelope is what really keeps us consistent. And then our goal is to put that money, save it up, to put it up in a money market, which has more restrictions, because you can't just transfer that over. You gotta, there are certain restrictions on that. So we started out the same. We started out the same method, and because you also taught us too. So we started out the same way, which has definitely helped us have a peace of mind. So you always had this reassuring voice, being my financial accountability partner. And I want you to give some people advice, like what jewels would you drop in their crowns if they're just starting off and they're overloaded, just with information, or they don't know what to do? What jewels would you drop into their crowns for individuals that are starting out on this journey of budgeting, or even the journey of paying off debt?
In life, there's no one size fits all solution. You use the envelopes for savings. I use the envelopes for food because I eat out a lot. And just swiping my card, I lose that level of accountability because I don't know how much I'm spending altogether on food. But when I have $40 in this envelope, I don't have no more cash. That's it. So I think our conversation as a whole could shed some light on the fact that there's no one size fits all solution. So you definitely have to be patient with yourself and seek different things. I've tried apps on my phone. I'm okay with having an app connected to my account if it keeps track of things. Be very cautious of that with cybersecurity. Find something that you feel comfortable with. Right now, I use the Dave Ramsey app because I had access to it after I took the class, and it really works well with the budget. But try some of those things out. I've even noticed that Capital One and Chase, because I have accounts with both of them, they'll have different suggestions when it comes to like your credit score, and even you can have extra savings, the 360 savings accounts that Capital One offers online savings. There's all these little tools that you can just pick up on. So of course, keep your personal business, like finance wise and numbers, close to the chest, because no one should know that level of detail unless you feel comfortable. But when you have those discussions and people talk about budgeting, our finances, our student loan is a really big topic, don't be afraid to ask people questions and their thoughts on it. Because I found out about the class through the realtor. And then after taking the class, some of my colleagues in the office also had feedback on certain things, and they became accountability partners. Did I tell them what my salary was? No, but they turned me on to savings, and they turned me on to different things like price matching or trying to find the lowest price on things like cable services and home warranties, and even something as simple as the gym. Just, I think the primary thing is do your research, keep an open mind, and take baby steps. I look at financial fitness kind of like regular fitness, which that's also a journey and another story for another time for me. But you find little things that work over time. When you have that as a goal or a priority, you pick up on things, whether it's listening to a podcast, your YouTube searches on different videos. There's so many things out there on financial literacy. And as an African American, I can personally say my parents did a great job making sure that I had a better opportunity and I understood my finances better than their parents did. But a lot of us do not come from old money, generational wealth. So
Right.
it's up to us to go out there and take the lead on educating ourselves so that wealth can come from us.
Right. And you could have something that you need to pass on to your kids and things of that nature. And I think that's important too. I think the biggest lesson I learned was that for me, going through financial peace, it taught me that a lot of my problems that I had with money, it was because money was an idol to me. And I love with Dave Ramsey, the one thing that I love that he did was tie the biblical. He talked biblically. I think that's the right word. But he talked about money from a biblical perspective. And I love that. And I got it. I understood money a tad bit better. So when I was taught from that perspective, when he taught me from that perspective, I was able to realize that one, money was an idol to me, and I'm not going to be able to prosper if it continues to be an idol. And then two, like we went from a 1-bedroom apartment to, a 3-4 bedroom house. Your finances change as your life circumstances change. I was able to manage the finances in the apartment. In this house, I hated finances. I thought I knew what I was doing, and I didn't know nothing, absolutely nothing. And it's being okay with that and having you as my accountability partner, but also relinquishing that over to Ed to say, okay, that's not my strength right now. And allowing him to do that. That was a big lesson, because when we took that, I think we were either engaged or in our courtship. So that's a big transition, to be that open and that vulnerable with your finances. So if you are in a situation to where you're engaged and you're about to get married, like that's important too, to walk through that and have those candid conversations, because your debt becomes their debt. And that was one thing I was transparent about. Like, I didn't want to buy a house because it's like, look, I got a house in student loans. So that's a lot. So it's really, I appreciate you taking the journey with me and being my accountability partner, because I was able to see it from my perspective, but also see it from your perspective in your journey, which has definitely inspired Ed and I to be crowned in our finances. Like, being crowned is so much more than just having a crown with jewels on it, but it's about implementing strategies in your life and in every part of your life. We don't talk about finances a lot. We know how to spend money. We need to learn how to save and invest. So that was one of my little last bits. So my last question for you is,
Can I just comment on two things you said?
Yeah.
One thing you said, oh gosh, please don't tell me I lost it. You talked about finances in a relationship. And I think from your perspective, throughout the course of this journey, you've had a partner, you were engaged, I have done this as a single person. And watching you on your journey has helped me to understand how important it is for me to prepare my finances going into a relationship. And personally, since this is my story, financial fitness is going to be a part of the things that I look for in a partner. Because I've walked through this, I've seen how couples, in your case, work through it and understand the value of it. Nobody's perfect, but I need you to understand the value of finances if we want to create a legacy for our kids. And if you don't value that at the age of 30 or whenever I do find a partner, thank you, but no thank you, because that really could break up a household or create tension if you are not investing in yourself first, and then when you have a partner, investing in them as well. So thank you for bringing that to the table. We don't talk about that a lot. Another thing I think you mentioned was the biblical perspective on Dave Ramsey. I advise anybody, side note, I'm not being paid for this, but I advise
ain't being paid for this. This is our stories and what worked for us.
who just doesn't know what to do to take the Dave Ramsey course. And back to the original point of there's no one size fits all. He has some really good things, some jewels that he drops, and you pick and choose what works best for you.
Right.
One example was his thing was you shouldn't have a brand new car until you can pay for it cash. I had a car for 9 years and it started stopping on me as I was driving, which is very dangerous. And I chose to get a new car and not buy a cash car. If I was in the position to purchase a cash car, and if I had someone, a mechanic or a partner or my dad around to work on it, I would have. But because I'm a single woman in a city away from my family, I felt like the better option was to get an affordable car. So you have to pick and choose those types of things, and especially when focusing on saving and paying debt, understanding that you have to be strategic in the decisions you make. And that means living within your means. I wanted one car, but when I realized how much the gas was going to be in that car,
it changed your mind real fast.
yes, it was a sports car. And I realized how much the maintenance and everything that came with it, that plus the note and everything else, was what I got was about half of that. And I'm still very satisfied with what I got. But it's just making those strategic decisions and understanding that if I do get a car note, well, the money that I was throwing towards my student loans now might be cut in half. So it may take me a little bit longer to accomplish my goal, but this is my journey. I've listened to podcasts where some people have moved out of their apartments, sold their furniture, ate beans and rice, and that's great. They accomplished it a lot quicker than I'm going to accomplish it. But this is my journey, and I have the peace of mind that when I'm driving down the road, I don't have to worry about stopping. And I'm still able to give what I can on my debt and pay for my car.
I love that. I love that. And I thank you for bringing the strategy part and sharing your journey with us. I know you don't do this often, so I'm glad you said yes to drop these jewels in our crowns. Hopefully I can get you back. I'm not going to ask for 2020. I'm going to just look at 2021. But I do appreciate you for coming to drop these jewels and sharing your journey, because I think sometimes we could read all the books, but sometimes you just need to hear the story of someone that's doing it and have that dialogue. So I appreciate you, sis, for joining me and saying yes.
Thank you for having me and pushing me outside my comfort zone, because